Hello weirdos. Welcome back to my channel. My name is EmmaAbe and today we're going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag because it's that time. It's technically not halfway through the year yet, but I feel confident enough in my answers to just answer these, and if I don't do it now, it's going to come out really late. So the original creators of this tag are Chami and Eli, and their channel / videos will be linked in the description below as kind of per usual. So there are 13 prompts in total, and let's get into this. Alright, so the first prompt / question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2023? And for that, I have chosen Invisible Child. This is Poverty, Survival, and Hope in the American City by Andrea Elliott. I read this relatively recently. This won the Pulitzer Prize for a reason. It tells a story of poverty, about this family, this African American family through dealing with being poor in America. The systemic structures that work to keep them down, and you're following this through the eyes of this young girl, and I just thought it was really, really powerful. It's one of the best books of nonfiction that I've read in a while. Read it. I don't want to give much away, but it's long, but it's worth it. The next prompt is, I think it's the best sequel that you have read. So the best sequel that I've read, it technically isn't the sequel, it's a fourth book, it's the last book in the series, but that would be Speaking Bones by Ken Liu. This is the last book in the Dandelion Dynasty, and I love the Dandelion Dynasty. It's kind of hard to talk about this book without people having knowledge of the other books. But this is in a genre that Ken Liu likes to call silk punk. It is a very interesting blend of Eastern and Western cultures, ideals, history, inspiration. I really enjoyed this whole series, and this ended just as gaily as I wanted it to. It gave me a whole new appreciation for the character of Empress Gia. I fucking love her, man. And of course, we have Thera. These are two women that I love. I will buy anything that Ken Liu writes because I love him. My students are often frightened because I'll be like, and Ken Liu lives in the Boston area. And they're like, how the fuck do you know that? And I'm like, I stalk his author page. Do you not? It says right on there. Yes, I have feelings. It's very good conclusion to the series, and I cannot wait to get my grubby little hands on more Ken Liu stuff. What is the next prompt? I do not know. The next prompt is a new release that I haven't read yet. So I have a stack, and by new release, I don't know what we are defining as quote-unquote new release, but I'm just going to show you a bunch of books that I've purchased relatively recently that have definitely come out within the last year that I haven't read yet, that I desperately want to, and I'm going to kind of quick fire them because there are a lot, and they are all within the danmei genre, which, if you do not know, danmei is the wonderful world of Chinese gay fiction. A lot of these are fantasy because that's what I lean hard into, and most danmei that have been published officially in English are within the fantasy genre, historical genre of some sort. I don't know what a lot of these books are about, but I have purchased them and have not read them yet, so it makes me sad. So the first book that we have is The Remnants of Filth. This is by Robao Buchiro, and this, you have two lovers who were together. One of them betrays the other, and has now reappeared in this person's life again. It's very bare bones of what it is, but I'm very excited to read this. I thought this was a one-shot. It's not. There's another book coming out, and I didn't realize that until yesterday. Yeah, this is also set in the world of a book series that we're going to talk about later, which is Arha, aka the Husky and his White Cat. And all of these covers are just beautiful. The art on all of these are so good. This is published by Seven Seas. But the next book series that we have is Little Mushroom. We have Little Mushroom Judgment Day, which is the first book in the series. And then we also have Little Mushroom Revelations. And this is like science fiction. We are dealing with people, this spore has broken out, and one of the main characters is a literal mushroom. I don't know much other than that. This one is published by the Peach Flower House, which is smaller than Seven Seas. The next book series is The Golden Terrace. This is by Chung-Woo Bin Bai, and this series you're dealing with two men that don't necessarily like each other, that are forced to be in arranged marriage by their emperor. This, I think, leans a lot more so on the historical aspect and less fantasy aspects, but I'm not 100% sure about this. These arts are just, they're so beautiful. What is with the artists? Like, they're so good. Okay, continuing on. The next series kind of that we have is Thousand Autumns. I don't know much about Thousand Autumns other than my friends tell me it's funny and it's good. Very, very, very low bar. But the second one, and this is coming out soon. This is also published by Seven Seas. This one is published by Peach Flower House. The next book is a book that is in the same world as Remnants of Filth, and that would be The Husky and His White Cat Shizen. This is the first book, and this is the second book. I cannot get over it. Damn. The art in this is just so good. But essentially, with this, you are following this man who is this awful, awful tyrant. He dies, and he wakes up in his teenage body, and he has to go back through life, making changes, and he realizes that his master, what he thought about his master, wasn't necessarily what his master was thinking. This is by EmmaAbe Books. The next book is I only have a few of these books in this book, but because I've read the other ones, and that is the Heaven's Official's Blessing. This is volume 5 and this is volume 6. I heard that this one is sad, and I don't know what to make of that. But you are following this Heaven Official, Xielan. He is basically having to wander around dealing with issues that he's kind of caused, but he's just wandering around the world fixing all of these issues with various human things, and he bumps into this person, Song Lan, who seems kind of familiar, and is also told that he has to stay away from Hua Cheng, who is the Ghost Master. And this is a horrible synopsis. It's the 5th and 6th books in the series, so there's only one more after this, and I can't wait for it to come out. I'm impatiently waiting for that. And this is published by Seven Seas. Last one in this, I swear. And that is the I saved my favorite for last, and that is The Grand Master of Dalmonic Cultivations, Volume 4 and 5. So I technically have read this, the unofficial English translation, which isn't up anymore. But this is the official English translations, and I've read volumes 1 through 3, haven't read 4 or 5. I own 2 copies of 5 because one of them has, is this the one that has it? One of them has like comics in the back. And I had to have that. Of course I did. Because I'm ridiculous. And this, you're following Lan Shan and Wei Ying as they reconnect from Wei Ying's resurrection, because Wei Ying died, and they have to solve this mystery of this arm. Like, what is going on with this arm? While they are rekindling or / figuring shit out because they're dumbasses. And I love them, and I love them. Okay, continuing on. These are also published by Seven Seas. I think Seven Seas is the largest publisher of these types of danmei and a lot of Eastern entertainment, or at least English language translation stuff. So the next question is the most anticipated release, and for this I'm going to say Guardian, which is another EmmaAbe book. And I don't even think we have the art for this yet, but this is a novel by Priest who also wrote Word of Honor, which is one of my favorite Chinese dramas, which is also danmei. Tea. Can't go wrong with some tea. Okay, the next book is Biggest Disappointment. I kind of struggled with this, kind of figuring out which one I was going to read, because there's a lot of books that I was excited for that I was just kind of meh about. So this is kind of what I've settled on, and that being Master of Poisons. This is by Andrea Harrison. I really wanted to love this book. I thought it was very interesting. The ideas that this book had about climate change, and I was here for the queerness in this, and I just couldn't connect, and I didn't know why. And that made me really sad, and I read the entire thing. I read the whole thing. I loved the cover. I thought the cover was awesome. Maybe it's one of those things that I have to just try again later. I was sad. Yeah, Master of Poisons. That's my answer for this one. The next question is the biggest surprise. Okay, for this one I chose We Are All Good People Here. All Good People Here. This is by Ashley Flowers. This isn't a book that I own, but I picked this up for my Goodreads reading project, and I think this won, I can't remember, but it was in the mystery thriller category. And mystery thrillers for me are kind of dodgy. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. It really kind of depends on the writing and the subject material. I really like it when a mystery or thriller can kind of lay itself out, so by the time you get to the big reveal of the whodunit, or you solve this whole mystery, you can easily go back and pick up all the breadcrumbs on the second reread, rather than having just things happen out of the blue with, seemingly no rhyme or reason. And the reason why I chose this one is because this one I think did that very well. You could sort of follow the pieces and figure out, and I did clock many of the twists and turns, and I enjoyed them. Another huge bonus this gets for me, because this has surprise lesbians in it, and I'm always happy when there are surprise lesbians. Yeah, that's I was not expecting that, and I was very happy. So that's that book. The next book is a new favorite author, and for that I chose Foz Meadows, who is the author of Strange and Stubborn Endurance. I read this book, and this is a book that made me was just wow, I really like what Foz Meadows is doing. I want to figure out what else they are doing. Foz Meadows is a queer author, Australian author, and wrote this, and I really liked it. This is a book about an arranged marriage, and till they figure out that one of the people in the arranged marriage is not into women, and so instead of marrying this other country's daughter, he has to marry this other country's son, and shit happens. There are trigger warnings, massive trigger warnings. Oh my god. But yeah, I quite enjoyed this book. I'm gonna move on. The next book, the next prompt is newest fictional crush. Don't really get that, so I'm gonna skip over that. Next one is the new favorite character. So I chose two. I chose one kind of in the nonfiction realm and one in the fiction realm. So nonfiction wise, I'd have to say, by new character, favorite character, I guess person, because it's nonfiction, I'd have to say Maria Ressa. She wrote How to Stand Up to a Dictator, and it is a memoir / discussion of her fighting back against censorship, dictatorships, and misinformation online. And I thought that her book, How to Stand Up to be a Dictator, had really good discussions about all of these things that were relevant, but have become more and more relevant as the growth of AI has just exploded. Particularly when you're dealing with things like AI, literally AI and misinformation. How do you combat against fake news, essentially, fabricated news channels that are being circulated online? How do you fight back against politicians who want to support the systems because they help them and want to keep the misinformation being a thing. So yeah, that's who I chose for the human. And then the person, the fictional character I chose was Benji from Hell Followed With Us. This is by Andrew Joseph White, and Benji is the main character in this book, and he is a trans boy who is being hunted by religious extremists, and they're in this apocalypse world that is caused by religious extremists. And if you are a queer person who has been hurt by religion, this will be very, very cathartic, because there's a lot of like anger and violence put towards the religious figures in this. Queer people are subjected to it as well, but it's, I don't know, it's I found this very, very cathartic, personally. And the reason why I like Benji so much is just because Benji was, I don't know, in this book, lived his truth and tried to live as authentically as could, but also had the complex dynamics of dealing with this religious trauma that I feel like a lot of queer people deal with. And I don't know, I just felt a lot of Benji's feelings, and I really connected to him on that level. So the next prompt is a book that made me cry. Not a lot of books have made me cry this year, unfortunately, but one that made me sob in the middle of a fucking coffee shop was Like a Love Story. This is about two queer youths growing up in the 80s and they fall in love. It's a story about young love, first love. It's in the height of the AIDS pandemic and just the terror that they are in, but also how deeply they want to connect to each other. And you have this complex thing because you have this character Reza, who is an immigrant and a refugee who is Iranian, and you also have Art, who is like the only out queer boy at his school, and Art's best friend Judy, who is a plus-sized person, and you really follow their relationship, the three of them, during the middle of the AIDS crisis. And it's very, very heartwarming, and I cried. And I read this before my goddamn grandfather died, so there you go. I think maybe that's why I haven't cried, is because I have been avoiding things like that, like the plague, that will make me cry, because I'm not emotionally ready for that. Anyway, a book that made me happy. I would have to say A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. The trans representation in this just made me very, very happy. Made my little trans heart sing. I was very happy that this is a historical romance and a place where we very rarely get to see any sort of trans representation at all. And the fact that like Alexis Hall brought this to it just made me happy. This whole thing just made me very, very happy. Next book is the most beautiful book that I've purchased so far this year. And since I couldn't choose any of the Danmei, I limited myself to like a book can only appear once in this list. I was looking at some of the other books that I bought, and I settled on Spear by Nicola Griffith. This is a queer retelling of Arthurian legend, and I just loved this like cauldron pot chalice thing with this like white tendrils of fire that, I don't know, the red and the white and the gray, I just really liked it. I thought it was really pretty. I'm sitting here realizing that so many of the books that I've showed you are queer. I wonder why it's my most read genre this year so far. We'll never know. We'll never know. It's painfully obvious. It's because I'm queer. And the very last prompt is a book that you need to read by the end of this year. And so I just decided that I would show you all of the books that I have yet to finish for my Goodreads project so far. I think I'm doing pretty good. Don't remember the stats, but let's speed run these. We have Cave Key by Vanishnavi Patel. We have Babel by Arhav Kwong. We have Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. Stuff is doing fall. We have Normal Distance. This is by Elisa Gabbert. The Maid by Nita Prose. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton. Four Treasures of the Sky by Jenny Tung Kui Shang. And Ophelia After All by Rachel Marie. And I'm sure there's more, but I don't have physical copies of those. So these are just ones like in my current possession right now. So there you go. There is my mid-year freakout tag. And 2023, we're halfway through. What a year. What a year so far this has been. It's been awful, but it's also been great. God damn it. Next year, please do not be like this.